Hi, my name is Micheal Murdoch and I am CEO and founder of The House. We are a creative agency and we like to dream, create and amaze. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to write a killer creative brief. We'll take you through the processes of speaking to new clients and taking them all the way through to a project completion. This talk was originally given at the Designers Fiesta in Hackney, and we're just doing a brief overview so you've got the details at hand. So a little bit about us. We are a digital branding and communications agency, and we help emerging and established companies. We like to tell their story, and ultimately we like to help them grow. At the moment we're about 15 to 20 creatives and coders, and we think strategically, focusing on three main areas: branding, animation and websites. We're pretty much full service and we like to help our clients in the best possible way. Here's some of the team and here's some of our work. As you can see, it's quite varied, colourful and fun. And here's some of the clients that we work with too. A lot of our work is social enterprise and charities, but we're not restricted to this sector, working also in food and beverage sectors along with many other startups in the tech and education world. So, for this session, we're going to take you through three key areas, following our tagline. We like to dream, create and amaze. Number one, first we dream. We dream by asking the right questions. These are the questions for our clients and working out if we're a good fit. We like to create. We want to create a killer brief by collaborating with the client. Again, asking the right questions, and most importantly, we like to listen. Listen carefully to what they say, and this is important if you're working with any client. We'll dive deeper into target markets, aims and challenges in the project, and then we'll try to prioritize everything so that we have the deadlines, budget and all the deliverables all in order. Lastly, we'll talk about how we amaze, how we deliver on results. From practicalities like Gantt charts, Checkins, Google Docs, Pinterest boards, use of Dropbox, to communication through things like Slack.com and Trello. So to begin with, let's talk about how we dream. Step one. In the beginning, it's really important to have these 7 set of questions answered before you move forward. This is more of a qualifier so that you can understand whether you're a good fit for your client and whether they're good for you as well. That's what makes a really good project. So, number one, is there a creative brief? If not, well then we need to write one. If we don't have a creative brief, the project is likely to fail. Number two, will they meet us to discuss the project? If they don't want to meet, then they're possibly not going to choose us, and it's very unlikely you'll be able to build a relationship. So this is important. And if they don't meet, then it's best to have a phone call at the very least. Do you know the decision maker? Quite often we've had long conversations with our clients, creating the brief, meeting up in person, only to find out we've not been speaking to the right person, and that decision is made away from us. So it's really important you find out who the decision maker is at the very start. Do they have a budget and a deadline? And if they don't have either, then they're probably not going to be that serious about the project. It's definitely worth throwing out some figures for the budget just to see where their ballpark figure is, because they always have one. And it's really important to work out why the deadline exists, if at all. For example, Christmas is a very busy time for most Western cultures, and everyone wants everything completed by Christmas. However, quite often people go away in January, and so the actual delivery is not really until February, so it's something to consider. Are there others pitching? Well, this can be a good thing, and it's quite common when you work on bigger projects. We normally have 2, 3, maybe even 5 people pitching against us. But if there are no others pitching, you're likely to win, so good news for you. And do you know them on a personal level? As I said at the start, it's all about relationships. So if you know them personally, you've had a coffee with them, or you've been referred to them, you're more likely to win, and it's more likely to be a successful project. Next, we ask the initial questions just to get started. So for example, an email comes in and someone wants a website, and you've qualified them with the questions before. Next, you need to ask a few more questions just to get an idea of where the project's going. This will help you understand how long it will take, what resources you will need, whether you need to hire other people to help you, and how much budget is available, so you can actually time this effectively. So, the first few questions are very open. If you had one wish, what would it be? It's one wish because it's about prioritizing. It's about making sure that they're focused on that key deliverable that makes all the difference. And it's a wish because it's open. What if their imagination was their only limit? It's not about hitting targets, it's not about what can and can't be done, it's about what they wish to happen. To follow up with this, we focus on what does success look like. Now success can be visualized. It could be a key deliverable, it could be hitting a deadline, it could be hitting a budget. Whatever it is, it's really good to know at the start. A key question that we've added to our creative brief is, what is the biggest challenge? Now the biggest challenge to overcome is something that could be part of the project. It could be that there are too many decision makers. It could be that actually the budget's not that great. It could be that there's going to be a lot of research needed before we can even start. Whatever it is, it's good to know so that you can plan. And then what are the personal and professional aims? Professionally, it could be to hit budgets. Personally, it could be to win awards. It does matter because this affects the project and it can be different outcomes. What problem is your organisation solving? Well, this is key. If they don't know this, then there's going to be a lot of work to do and to understand their purpose. So it's really important we get this question out of the way. And then equally, what is the difference that they're making and what makes their service and product different as well? Who are they selling to or promoting to? Who's their audience? Target markets can really affect how the outcome is. A drinks brand for children could be completely different from a drinks brand for young adults. So it's really good to know at the start. And then who are the competitors? At this stage, your client is most likely to know their competitors more than you do, unless you are very sector specific. So it's really important we get their view on this, because at the end of the day, they will be comparing themselves to these competitors. Step 2. We now create the brief. Here are a few key questions. As you can see, some of these are repeated, and now it's a case of taking everything you've heard or read in emails or had on phone call conversations and putting it into a document. We use a Google Doc, which you'll be able to download on the last slide of this presentation, and we start filling in the data. Firstly, it's all about the client. We need to know who they are, what they do, how big they are. That's important because then you can work out how they're going to work as a client. Will they have many key stakeholders? Will they be able to make decisions quickly or slowly? Will they need lots of care and attention? Various different outcomes. Who are the competitors? As mentioned, they should know them better than you. But now at this stage, we'll start researching who we feel the competitors are. What makes them different? How do they stand out? What are the future plans? Have they had discussions around what they plan to do in 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 5 years? Whatever the plans are, you need to be part of them, at least to know exactly where they're going. What are the company challenges? And equally, what are the successes? What do they think is good? And what do they hope to achieve next? For the project, it's slightly different and a bit more specific. We need to know the scope of work and hence the resources needed. Will we need copywriters? Will we need designers, developers, filmmakers, animators? It could be quite open for us as an agency, but it depends on how specific your services are. What are the expected deliverables? So sometimes the creative brief can be open and it's not quite sure what the outcomes will be. But as the project develops, we need to focus on what everyone expects to be delivered. What are the aims of the project? Who is the target market? Equally, what is the timeline and budget? And then we start to focus on the style preferences. Now, if this is a design project, the styling is really important. They either have brand guidelines that already exist, or a sense of the direction that the rebrand needs to go in. We find Pinterest boards are great for this, but also just sending links to websites and videos online that give you a gist of the direction they want to go in. Importantly, because most things aren't always possible for small budgets, or even the larger budgets, we need to have a task list. And the task list needs to be put in order of priority. And finally, who is the decision maker? Again, as mentioned earlier, it's very important, and the decision maker can change halfway through a project with people coming and going as they start their careers elsewhere. So, next is the golden circle. Partly, this is a project in itself. It's not just the creative brief, but it's very important to know, and it really gives you a background to why this organisation exists. Whether they've just started and it's a single founder, or they've been going for 100 years and there's thousands of employees around the world. They need to know why they exist, how they operate, and what they actually do. This is based on the Simon Sinek TED Talk, the most popular TED Talk online, and it's 18 minutes, so I urge you to watch it. Going into more detail, I've added an extra couple of slides. So firstly, what is the wow? What is the wow factor that your client can tell you and their audience that makes them stand out? Is it an amazing statistic, a fantastic case study, claim to fame, an impressive innovation, an attention-grabbing headline? Whatever it is, it tells you a lot about who they are and what they do. Next, the why. Most people start with what and how, but we really focus on the why. Why do they exist? Why do they get out of bed every day? Why should people care? And why should their customer connect with them? How do they put the operations into practice? What are their systems? What are their processes and innovations? What is the unfair advantage that they have over their competitors? The what is a little bit easier for most people to answer, but can they simplify this down to a short 20-second elevator pitch that could be said in a noisy bar or at a windy bus stop and still be understood? And then who? Who are they helping? Their story will probably change depending on who they're talking to. Sometimes it's investors, sometimes it's corporates, sometimes it's employees, sometimes it's partners. Whoever it is, whether their customers are young, old, in different countries or not, they need to adapt their story to make it make sense. And finally, where? An elevator pitch is short and sweet. A cold call, they need to grab attention. But a presentation, they've probably got 30 minutes to an hour to really tell their story. So it really depends on the situation. And finally, this all gets brought together with the value proposition. What is the product or service? Who is the target market? What are the key benefits? Why do these actually matter? And what are the outcomes? We set up this template as a guide, but there are many online, so do search value proposition via Google. And finally, for this section, it's all about listening. Listen very carefully to what's being said. Not everything being said and not everything in the brief will be accurate, so it's best to go through each bit, any questions you have, and comment on them. We use Google Docs and put comments in there directly so that everyone can see everything at the same time, and we have one version to work from. It's always best to talk back, just check to make sure that what you've heard is what you've understood correctly, and at this point it will save time in the future. So, the last step of this session, step 3, how to amaze. This is all about delivery. Firstly, don't guess. We have a creative brief and we have one for a reason. There's a lot of information in there, and if you're working in a team who probably haven't been involved in that creative brief writing process, they will want to go through it in detail and raise any questions they have. Also, if it's in the same structure as we do at the house, then it means that everyone knows what's coming. And from here, the next step is to research. Research what you've been told. Are the competitors really competitors? Are there any more? Are the target audience the right target audience? Or does it need to adapt? Are the current stories, the messages, and the aims of the project correct? Or do they need to adapt as well? Whatever it is, you need to do some research and make sure that what is being said is actually correct. This is the discovery process, understanding the creative brief and working out the plan to move forward. Part of this, for us, was done with Loop. We worked with an existing brand, but we were looking to rebrand it, rename it, and relaunch it. And to do this, we got to the heart of things, working with the customers, the students. Loop is an online platform for students to review their school and colleges. So we talked to them directly, and they helped create it, a co-creation session. There was a number of times we did workshops, showing them examples, understanding and listening to what they wanted, and the outcome was Loop. Mood boards are really great for this. We use Pinterest, and we start this off for the client based on the brief. Then we share it with the client and ask them to add their details, and also to delete any ones that they don't like. This means we get a refined option of visually showing what they want. Quite often, customers will want something modern but traditional, informative and fresh and clean, but all these words mean different things to different people. Even within our small team, we can have a very different view of what that means. So it's really good to get this out visually and start talking about each one and commenting on each pin. Next, from a practical point of view, it's about the Gantt chart. We use Excel sheets in Google Drive, and we work out a week by week and almost day by day timeline for the project. This is really good, especially when you're juggling different projects at once. We can jump in and within a couple of minutes work out exactly where we are on the timeline to know if we're ahead or behind or just on time. Also, for the client, they can work out exactly when they need to provide feedback, which is very important, mainly because projects are normally on a tight time frame and a tight budget, so we can't afford to have a lag in time between us giving the work and then providing feedback. The Moscow sheet, particularly important for website projects. Moscow stands for must-haves, should-haves, could-haves and won't-haves. It's to discuss every single feature of a project so that we can review it at the start, in the middle and at the end. So the must-haves and the should-haves are the ones we focus on, and that's the phase 1. And particularly with websites, it's normally a case of moving in from phase 1 to phase 2 and improving it over a certain amount of time and after user testing. Could-haves are something to consider, and at any stage in the project, there is the ability to move the columns from won't to could to should to must-haves, but they have to be considered. The won't-haves are very, very important because it means that everyone has had a chance to discuss what they want, and there's proof that has been talked about, and if it's not appropriate at this stage, we put it in the won't-haves. That doesn't mean it can't be moved, but it does mean that for phase 1 or the current phase, it won't be used. Shared documents are great, and the top 2 sections of this screen on the left is slack.com. We use that for chat. It's like a WhatsApp for business, and it's very good for teams around the world. We have a team in London, we have another team in Serbia, and we work with people as far away as Buenos Aires and Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. But we keep everyone in the loop, and we can contact everyone very quickly through Slack. We then project manage with Trello.com on the top right hand corner, and as you can see, there's various columns. Normally it's a case of working from left to right, so you have your to-do list, your in-progress list, your done, review, and then completed list on the right-hand side. And you move each card or task from left to right as they're completed. Bottom left is Dropbox. We keep everything in the cloud. This means that our team in Serbia can start on one project, and sometimes our team in London can finish it off using the same files. And Google Drive. This is great for our team, but also for working with clients. As I said, the creative brief is worked online in one place. The Gantt chart, the Moscow sheet, and quite a few other documents, especially around feedback, are done through Google Drive. All of these are free, but there are paid versions. Good for Nothing is a really good example. A great team called Swarm had started this a few years ago, and we helped with the Camden chapter. And it's a series of creative hackathons. They could be 3 hours, 24 hours, or 48 hours. I wanted to show you this because it's a really great way to test out a creative brief and also write one really quickly. You're forced with a time constraint, think on your feet, and get the messages out there and communicate really clearly. So if you want to turn 3 months worth of work into 3 hours and get the same sort of results, then I would consider these creative hackathons. So go to goodfornothing.com. We believe in testing, failing, and learning, and that means we want to iterate throughout the process. So maybe a full e-commerce website is needed, but we haven't actually tested out if the product's going to sell. And you can test out the product with a simple landing page. You don't need e-commerce, and you don't even need a product. You can just showcase it and allow people to click the Buy Now button. And when they do, you can take their email address and put them on a waiting list. If you have 100 orders, then you know it's worth making. We helped with a company called Libreway, and they wanted to create a fast food restaurant, but the budget was small. They did, however, have a huge amount of research, and really good research. They wanted to find investors, they wanted to find partners, and so we helped them with an animation that meant they can showcase this very quickly to potential investors. So rather than giving them pages and pages of research, we gave them a 90-second animation that explained everything they plan to do and hope to achieve. And the results are they've got some investment and they've got partners too. Check-ins and sign-offs, very important, and something to be quite strict about. So thinking about the Gantt charts, it's really important that you factor in lots of time to check in. You don't have to take them all. You might have phone call meetings, you might have in-person meetings, you might have particular points for sign-offs, and including particular points for payments as well. It's very easy 2 months in to forget about these and let the project run astray a little bit. So it's important that at the start you follow this on the Gantt chart and you stick to it as well. Fair Trade is a great project that we worked on, and we had a good experience with the team. It was a wide team with lots of stakeholders from different departments, so these check-ins were even more important than usual. Quite often it's 2, maybe 3 people that make decisions. This time it was more like 10 plus. And so although decisions were a little bit slower, it was good to have everyone in the room, and it was helped by having the Gantt chart available so we can all share our ideas. So finally, just to wrap up, it's all about lining up your ducks, and then you can deliver properly. So firstly, you need to work out if you're a good fit, ask the right questions. Secondly, you create the creative brief with the client and collaborate with them on this so that they really understand that you care and you want to make the best outcome possible. And also it means that even if they don't go with you, that they have a creative brief to take to someone else. Sometimes you can charge for this process as a consultant, and other times you factor it in to the project should you win. And then finally, we'd like to amaze, and that's all about making sure your Gantt chart's correct, your Moscow priority sheet's there, you've agreed everything, you've made sure that the deliverables are realistic, and then there's lots of communication. So, No questions, I hope, but if you do, please email me. My email is michael@thehouselondon.com. My number and other contact details are there too, and we'll be more than happy to help if you have any questions about this, or if you have any projects that you or friends or colleagues would like us to help on. We deliver branding and design, animation and film, websites and mobile apps, and our website is www.thehouselondon.com. In this presentation you'll find a link to a Dropbox folder, and that includes everything that I've shown you today, plus some other guides and a creative brief. And here are a few extra links referencing anything I've spoken about today, which you might find very useful. So here are my details again. Thank you very much for listening, and I will hope to see you soon.